Good morning. My name is Carly Swaim Walker. I come to you today as a daughter, a sister, a career woman, a wife to Brian, and a mom to Breezy. I come as a volunteer and an advocate for the arts, equal opportunity, education, women's rights, diversity, and inclusion. I come to you as an ally for the LGBTQIA community, as well as for social justice. If we were conferencing together today, you would learn a lot about me. I am very much an open and talkative person. I've taken lots of personality tests, DISC, the color wheel, Myers-Briggs, but one of my all-time favorites is the 5-minute animal personality test. I'm an otter. I'm very social, I love people, I'm an influencer, I motivate others. My strengths would be I'm a people person, I'm open, I'm positive, and my weaknesses would be I talk too much and I'm too permissive. So that's a little bit more about me. I'm thrilled to be here as a first-time speaker at the Bloom Inclusion and the first ever ConCourse. I've never even participated in a ConCourse. How exciting. And I align with the priorities of Bloom Inclusion, which is innovation, integration, and inspiration. Today we will celebrate our similarities and our differences. And I'm going to share how we have grown as a community and created inclusion. I'm a transparent leader. So I may get emotional, I may be a little silly, I might get a little raw, but I am unapologetically flawed. So here we go as I present to you today, volunteers during crisis generate growth. Okay, let's go ahead and get these 2020 words out of the way. Social distancing, unprecedented, trying times, toilet paper shortage, uncertain, new normal, essential, and pivot. Nope. If I say any of these words during my presentation, I owe you lunch. And I know we're not here together, so you send me an email and say, Carly, you said pivot. And my email address is Carly, C-A-R-L-E-Y, @volunteergso.org. Remember, if I say any of these words, I owe you lunch. I look forward to our lunch together because I'm sure I'm going to say them. We are going to focus on these words today, though. Growth, stepping up, support, compassion, sharing, giving, community, and love. These are the words that I want us to focus on today in this presentation. So what is the Volunteer Center? What do we do? Well, we've been around since 1963. A lot of people think that we're one of the best kept secrets in our community. But not anymore, because we've recently rebranded. We started in 1963 as a component of the United Way, which was then the Community Chest, which is a long time ago. And in the early 70s, we became our own nonprofit to focus on mobilizing volunteers for this growing community. One of our biggest funders is the United Way, and we're an affiliate of the National Points of Light Foundation. We annually mobilize 120,000 volunteers. And we focus on connecting people, promoting volunteerism, supporting nonprofits, and building partnerships. I've been the executive director at the Volunteer Center for 8 years now, and I love every minute of it. There's never a dull moment, and there's always something new and interesting to do. So, I recently bought my daughter a baby doll that you can change its diaper because we're trying to potty train. And it was $20. And I also recently was able to go, I almost said the word, and do a coffee meeting, and that was $10. And I recently had a gourmet lunch out at a restaurant, and that was $15. None of that is equivalent to the value of one volunteer hour as of July 2020. $27.20 an hour is the value of a current volunteer hour. Think about that. Think about who doesn't make $27.20 an hour. Think about the depth of what that is giving back to our community. There's so many numbers that kind of swirl through my head when I think about that $27.20, but one that is extremely powerful is that during the pandemic, so from March 15th-ish to the end of June is when I tracked these numbers, this community mobilized 40,000 acts of volunteers and or 40,000 volunteers. Granted, some of those are duplicates because a lot of y'all are superstars, but still, 40,000 volunteers during that span of that season is incredible numbers. And guess what that means? You take this number, you times it times that number, even if they just gave 1 hour, that's $1.1 million in economic impact from March till June in our community. Wow, wow. $1.1 million that all of you giving gave back to this community. Why? Why do people give back? You know, there's a lot of times, I've done a lot of presentations on volunteerism, and pre-pandemic, there were a lot of reasons why people gave back. They had to, for school, for work, for court. They were really passionate about something and they aligned with it. But it felt really different during the pandemic as to why people gave back. And people gave me a lot of really interesting answers when I asked them why they were giving back. And here's some of them. Compassion for others. Like true to your heart, at the depth of you, compassion for others. Boredom. People were furloughed. People lost their jobs. Kids weren't in school. People weren't in college anymore. They were bored. They wanted to do something. Necessity. They felt like they had to do something as no one else would, which we saw in those 40,000 numbers that a lot of people were giving back. But they felt like maybe they weren't, and so they had to step up. Sustainability. There are so many nonprofits out there that we all love and are very near and dear to our heart. Our churches even, our schools even. And we felt like we had to keep those sustainable. We had to almost even save them during this time. And so sustainability was high up on the list as to why people were giving back. Mental and physical well-being. Whew, y'all. It's been stressful. Let's be real. And it's also been stressful not to be able to go to the gym. So we have found other means of focusing on our mental and physical well-being. And a lot of that is volunteering and giving back, which I think is incredible. And overall, love for our community. This community loves like no other community. Granted, I'm a native here in the Greensboro area, so I know no different really, but I do know that the love is really just entrenched in all that we are. It's part of the fabric of this community. And when I was having conversations with people as to why they were giving back, when they were throwing out the word love, I was just like, wow, you truly felt it. And I'm going to talk a lot more about that here in just a bit. How? How did people give back? Because a lot of people were like, oh, I just thought everybody was sitting at their house chilling. No, they were not. They were checking in. They were checking in on their neighbors. They were checking in on their teachers for their students. They were checking in on everybody. Even if it was knocking on my neighbor's door, stepping 6 foot back and saying, how are you? Do you need something? Can we just talk? Checking in was a huge piece of this puzzle. Assisting with basic needs. There's a lot of vulnerable populations in our community, but when a pandemic hits, those populations become extremely more vulnerable. And basic needs are hard to come by. And there was also a fear factor in there. And people stepped up in major ways, making sure that people had food and shelter and medical care. And I've never seen the food pantry so packed with volunteers. Granted, keeping their distance. People stepped up just by being a leader. If you are a leader in any capacity, if you have a team under you, for whatever reason that is, people stepped up and said, work from home. People stepped up and said, I will get you what you need. And being a leader alone was a huge way in how people are giving back and continue to give back during the pandemic. They donated. They donated their money. They dug deep into their pockets. They didn't care about the fact that there might not be money on the other side of this. They just knew the need was great right now. But they also donated supplies and masks and Clorox and whatever it was that they felt like our community needed, they donated it. Some of the funds that came out of this were through like the United Way and the Community Foundation are doing incredible work. And people just kept giving to those funds so that they could put that out into the community and give it to the nonprofits. The Volunteer Center was a recipient of some of those funds because of our COVID relief. So thank you. Medical, they're giving blood. They're nurses. We're going from, let's say, little old Triad area up to New York because they needed them. And so they stepped up. Doctors were doing whatever they could to make sure that people were taken care of and that they understood the medical side of all of this. Encouragement. Yes, there were some people that couldn't go out of their homes. They fell under the CDC guidelines that didn't allow them to leave their homes. But guess what? They still gave back at home. There was a lady who sat with her grandchildren at their coffee table and made hundreds of encouraging cards. Hundreds. Cards to seniors, cards to children, cards to teachers, cards to first responders. And they sent those out and it gave someone an encouraging word. Wow. So what did the Volunteer Center do different? Well, upon an emergency or a crisis of any type, the Volunteer Center has to stop business per usual, and we have to become the Volunteer Emergency Response Center. What does that mean? It means that we respond and mobilize volunteers around that crisis. We stop everything else that we're doing, and we do just that. We made our website all about COVID relief. Who needs what resources? Who needs volunteers? Who wants to volunteer? And there were a lot of sleepless nights around this because we were working hard for one, but two, because we wanted to make sure that we were giving this community what it needed. And we are still considered the volunteer emergency response because we are still in a pandemic, but things have come a little bit full circle as we've gotten back to normal somewhat. And one of the ways that we got back to normal was we decided that we were going to do a virtual human race this year. So the human race, I'll give you a little summary, 27-year-old event, raised $5.3 million since its inception for our nonprofit community. It is a 5K, but it allows for nonprofits, as many as up to 100 we've had before, to raise money for themselves. So you normally go out and run a 5K for, cancer or women's rights or your child's school. This is an event that allows all of those entities to come together and raise money together. And we decided that we were going to do it virtually. It was one of the first events outside of the Future Fund event that was done virtually as a fundraiser. And we were nervous. and we weren't sure it was going to work, but we knew that our community needed this. We knew our nonprofits needed this. We knew that people wanted something that they could look forward to. So we did it. And we had videography like we do right now. And we were live in studio. And I just want to give a huge shout out to my staff who really just wrapped their arms around that. And that's Jordan Lisinski, which some of you know her, and Hope Tyler and Papa Bristol. Shout out to you ladies for making the virtual human race happen. On that live in studio, we had 4,000 viewers. That's usually the number of people that we have at the live event. Incredible. We had no way of knowing that we were going to be able to pull this off, and we did. But here's the best part. We raised $110,000 on that live event for the nonprofit community. Wow, wow, wow. That was such a cool feeling, and it just made my heart burst and sing with pride for our community. We also had local musicians play on that live. And they talked about social justice. Their songs talked about social justice and inclusiveness and diversity. And it really just was a big hug for our community. And we loved it, and we got nothing but rave feedback. We also did volunteer virtually. What does that mean? Well, it's something that the Volunteer Center talked about for a while before the pandemic. But then when the pandemic hit, we were like, we have to do this. We have to offer virtual options. So we started allowing companies to pick up kits so they could do toiletry kits or first aid kits or back to school kits in their homes safely, and then produce those and put those back out into the community. We started offering tutoring options so people could tutor our students virtually. We started allowing people to make phone calls to whomever, just to say, how you doing? What's going on? What can I help you with? But what came mostly out of the virtual volunteering are the stories. Oh my God, the stories. I sound like my grandma talking about the soap operas. So the stories. Mary gave groceries for her elderly neighbors. Mary had 3 elderly neighbors that didn't have the ability to go to the grocery store during the pandemic. And so she just decided, outside of her means, might I add, that she was going to go buy groceries for these 3 elderly neighbors until she couldn't do it anymore. And then when she ran out of the means to do it, then another neighbor picked it up and started doing it. Way to go, Mary. Joe decided he wanted to donate blood every chance he was able to. Well, you're technically not supposed to donate blood but every 8 weeks, but Joe found a way to do it every 4 weeks and continued to give and continues to do so today. Titus served 100 hours in the same food pantry. He went every day making sure that the food pantry was stocked, making sure that it was organized, and even went an extra step and made sure that this section was for persons with diabetes, and this section was for persons with small children at home. So it was easy to pick it up, put it in the bag, and get it to the people that needed it. Selena tutored. She reached out to us and said, our young people need us, and I want to tutor. I want to tutor in whatever. I'm a retired teacher and I just want to help. And so we got her set up virtually online and she started tutoring. And she's already made a huge difference in at least 10 students' lives right now that are really having a hard time with virtual learning. And then Agnes called 20 seniors a day. 20. I do good to call my mama every day. 20 seniors. Called them, asked them, do you have your meds? Do you have your groceries? How are you? Do you want to play bingo over the phone? Whatever it was, Agnes wanted to reach out to those seniors and make a difference in their lives during this time. So let's talk a little bit about fear. So the number 1 fear is public speaking. Ha ha, here I am. The number 2 fear is death. And the number 3 fear is the fear of the unknown. During the pandemic, 2 and 3 were real. Real. You could step out of your house and you could seriously and truly feel the fear of 2 and 3. And that's like huge if you think about it. I mean, think about the people that have passed away, and think about the fact that nobody really knew what was going on in the beginning. It was very much the unknown. But our community didn't really let that fear get in their way. They said, no, I will not fear those things. I will step up and I will be here for my community. I will love on my community. I will do all that I can to make this community a better place. And so on the other side of this, once it's over, I know we're going to be able to look back and say, wow, look at what we did. What an incredible, giving, supportive, compassionate community we are. Our people have grown. Our community has grown. We didn't let fear get in our way. We didn't let all this stuff that we were hearing and all this chatter get in our way. We stepped up. We gave people hugs. We gave people a community hug that you felt. Now, you better believe when we can really hug people again, y'all better stay out of my way because I'm hugging you all. But our community collectively hugged each other and collectively stepped up. And these stories of Agnes and Titus and Mary, there's thousands more of them. There's 40,000 of those stories, actually. So, wow, community, how you have grown. And as someone who is a community advocate and does a lot in our community, I've never quite felt this way about it. It's just so heartwarming and so incredibly powerful. And I will always remember this for the rest of my life. And yes, we all say we won't forget 2020. No, we won't. But I will remember 2020 for so many other reasons outside of the pandemic. I will remember the love story that we had for each other. And so, there are some stats that come along with volunteering. These were pre-pandemic. 76% of people who are volunteering felt like volunteering made them feel healthier. That's a good stat. I like that. 94% of people volunteering said that it improved their mood. Well, yeah, because that warm and fuzzy feeling people talk about when they volunteer, that's a real thing, y'all. 96% of people, when they volunteer, felt like they had an enriching sense of purpose. Whoa. Enriching sense of purpose? Oh my goodness, y'all. Aren't we all looking for that? If 96% of people said that that's what volunteering gave them, what are you doing sitting on your couch right now, y'all? Come out here and join these 40,000 other people. And 95% believe they are helping make their community a better place. Ding, ding, ding. That's what we're here for, y'all. We're making our community a better place. That's what gets me out of bed every single day. And that's what gets a lot of our community out of the bed every single day too. Because that hug that I was talking about, that love that I'm talking about, that supportiveness is really, truly what this is all about. And this is what the pandemic has been about through my eyes at least. So, this is pre-pandemic, but after we look past it, I know what we're going to say. True love stories should never have a happy ending. What, Carly? That's crazy. Because true love stories never end. I challenge you to continue on. Keep giving and giving and giving until it hurts. Be continuous in your growth and love on this community. Because our love story is not going to come to an end. We're going to continue on, and we're going to allow this time to give us all those feels and give us everything that we wished for when we were sitting on our couch on March 15th figuring out what is next. I don't understand. What is this unknown thing? And you're going to push that all aside and push those fears aside as you did, and you're going to continue to give. And so I just want to say thank you from my heart, from my family, and from the Volunteer Center of the Triad. Thank you for giving back in such a meaningful way, and thank you for being part of the community's love story.